She could spell words like catastrophe, but then she'd misspell like the.
This podcast is hardly focused.
Ah, the French.
Alleged Baby Reindeer Stalker sent the UK Labour boss 276 emails. So according to the Sun, Fiona Harvey, she is the basis of the character of Martha on Baby Reindeer. She was stalking Labour Party leader Keir Starmer. She sent him 276 emails over the course of nearly 8 months.
That's too many.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a problem.
In her emails, she called Starmer a, quote, stupid little boy and, quote, a useless barrister, which is British for lawyer.
Sounds like Martha.
Well, listen to this. All of her emails to Starmer ended with, quote, sent from my iPhone or some misspelled variation thereof. Just like on the show. Now, Zach, on the show, all of her emails that she sends to, now on the show's character's name is Donnie, but the actor Richard Gadd, and this is what Gadd purports happened. All of the emails would end with sent from my iPhone. Here's the thing, though. She didn't own an iPhone.
So she was literally typing sent from my iPhone at the bottom of all of her messages. Gotcha.
Wow,
that's pathetic.
She was. And what makes it even better is that her emails, when she was like especially heated, all of her emails would just be typo laden.
She might have the
messes.
first letter and last letter right.
And oddly, she could spell words like catastrophe, but then she'd misspell like the.
Yeah.
So they would devolve. They would devolve though, and she'd be so worked up that when she'd get to sent from my iPhone, she would either like misspell that or she wouldn't even type out the whole thing. Like one of her emails just ends with iPhone, where iPhone is misspelled. So
that's pretty bad.
Yeah, and according to the Sun, the emails that she's sending to Starmer were written with typos, punctuation and grammar mistakes, and oddly spaced sentences, which is exactly what is shown on Baby Reindeer. So
this is a perfect time to bring up our sponsor, Grammarly. This shows.
Wish.
Oh, I wish, man. That would be so. I would go on with the bit, but it would be like, people would be like, oh, do they really have a sponsor? Man, that would be great. See, Grammarly, that's how easy it could be. You could contact us. We could do this. We could talk.
Get 20% off your first month of Grammarly with code word fudge. That's fudge. Fiona Harvey goes on Piers Morgan. She's like, there's a few missteps along the way with her going on Piers Morgan. First, she pretty much is admitting that she is the basis for Martha on the show, even though she is trying to claim that she is not the basis of Martha. And then this thing comes out with her and the Labour Party leader, and everything that she sent to him bears the hallmarks of what she was sending to Richard Gadd, which is what was portrayed on the show. So her defense is, in my opinion, non-existent. She could defend herself to the grave, but there's so much evidence pointing to her being the stalker.
My favorite part of this, the whole thing of her coming forward, was she was like, the show lied to you. It was completely false and inaccurate, and it blah blah. And, like she was going on about how it was lying and how it made her look that way. And then she's like, I did not go to jail. That's it. That's the only thing she said that she corrected. She's like, the only like she went on talking about how the story was made up, how it's like, ruining her reputation, how like none of it's true. And then the only thing she disputes is, I didn't go to jail. It's like,
I mean, maybe you should have.
But she doesn't say like and then later she's like, oh yeah, and also I'm not a stalker. I never stalked.
Well,
Like that was later. Later, she would be like, I didn't stalk him. But like the first thing she was like, no, lies, slander, defamation, all of that, because I never did jail time.
So this is her talking to Piers Morgan, where the subject of what was shown in Baby Reindeer with the number of emails and text messages, largely emails, later text messages were sent to Gad. And on the show, it's a large number. It's like in the thousands. And then Morgan asks her about that to verify that, basically verify that. And this is what she had to say.
I don't think I sent him anything.
You never sent him anything?
No. I think there may have been a couple of emails exchanging, but that was it. Just jokey banter emails.
Netflix have said that these details are the real ones. That this is exactly
completely incorrect.
So you're denying sending anything to him?
There may have been a couple of emails.
Text messages?
No.
Facebook messages?
No.
Did you tweet him?
I may have done years and years ago.
You actually tweeted him numerous times.
No, it wasn't numerous. It was about 18 tweets there or 14
It's quite a lot for someone who's not that well known.
It was a lot more than that, by the way, because her Twitter profile is still up there, and all of her tweets from, I think it's like 2010, maybe a little later, they're all still there. There's maybe not.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Because like the guy that made this did tell people not to look for her, but like they basically did it immediately once they like finished watching the show, pretty much, right? Because like I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Because she only started coming out about did the interview after people hunted her down, right?
Yeah. Well, it's
okay.
It's because they went through Gad's Twitter and found. I don't know if he actually responded to her, but they were looking for people who were tweeting at him around the time that this all allegedly took place, and they were able to identify Fiona based on the nature of the tweets and the fact that the tweets were all laden with misspellings, and the tone of the tweets very similar to what was portrayed in the show. I can't remember off the top of my head if any of them were shared verbatim on the show, but people were pretty easily and quickly able to identify it. And then Fiona Harvey goes on Piers Morgan and basically just outs herself, even if she's trying to claim that it's not her. For all intents and purposes, she just admitted to it.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, and then here's her telling Piers Morgan that she thinks that Gad is psychotic.
I think he's psychotic, and I think that anyone going along, being in that play, and doing this to somebody, I find the behaviour outrageous.
He says the whole thing started because he felt sorry for you, and that's why he befriended you.
Your staff said that to me in the waiting room. This is a lot of nonsense.
She's one of those people who, like, her mouth is just perpetually filled with spit. You know what I'm talking about? You can hear it when she's talking, where you can hear the licking, like the that. Mm-hmm. Oh, that drives me nuts.
The lip smacks.
Yeah. The other thing I was noticing is I both love and hate Piers Morgan, because like realistically, I hate him as a journalist.
He's a piece of shit.
It is kind of funny in this instance for him just be like, oh yeah, well, you're a liar, right? Like basically is what he's saying every other sentence.
Right. This is the one time I will actually take his side on this, because she like has no, I don't think she has an agent. I don't think she has any sort of PR.
No, she'll represent herself.
No,
right.
Yeah,
so, and he
that's
knows
all her.
He knows it's an easy target. But at the same time, I mean, this is really running off the coattails of the show here. We all want to know what's going on, and you can tell from like a minute into the interview, she is backed into a corner.
Yeah.
So Harvey plans to sue Netflix over her portrayal in the show, and despite I thought she was a lawyer herself, but she's retaining a law firm law firms in both the UK and the US to help her, I guess, clear her name.
So she might have a case in the sense that the show didn't do a lot to like make it hard to find. You know, like they could have done things like not actually shown the messages or like actually fixed the grammar of the messages, like because that's one of the telling signs. Like, and they could have changed so many different things. They didn't, so she could have a case. But in terms, like I don't. This is going to be so interesting to find out like what happens with this. What did you think of the show?
I loved it. It
was great.
It made me there were a lot of moments in that show that made me uncomfortable. And I mean, not to I'll try hard not to spoil it because there are
Snape kills Dumbledore.
Yeah, there are some scenes in there that will I mean, let's just put it this way. They put warnings before, which is one episode, but there's a warning before the episode to give you some context is about what's about to happen in it. And honestly, I don't know if it's just because I am messed up in the head, but some of the other things that were shown outside of that one particular episode, I was like turning away from the TV because I'm like, I can't watch this. This is making me uncomfortable. But then the episode in question too, also like I was just like, I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable for different reasons, but I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But other than that,
that
I
last couple episodes were so badass.
Oh my God, yes. Oh yes. It's Zach, it's a quick watch, man. I think it's only like 6 or 7 episodes.
And they're like 20 minutes or something.
Yeah, I'll pick it up.
Yeah.
I'll pick it up.
I watched it in a day.
And Nate, you liked it?
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. I hope he doesn't get in too much trouble.
It's fascinating that it's him, like the guy who wrote the whole thing. I didn't realize that until afterwards. I was watching interviews and just to see like, okay, who's the victim here, and then finding out, oh, it's the guy in the show. Because he's a fantastic.
I was gonna make a joke about like, because when all this, the real Martha has been revealed or whatever, and I was gonna do like a whole bit of like, we found out who the character Baby Reindeer is based off, like, and because it was just like, because he says like this happens, and he toured the show before it was a Netflix show, so it was like a thing that he did, like a live show, which I would be interested in seeing how that translates, because the show has all sorts of like dialogue and like back and forth stuff and like exactly what it sounds like coming from one person, like then like does he go like, and then Martha sent me a thing that said this, instead of it being like the text, or I'd be curious to see that. And there's some, I don't know,
I think it's one of those elements too that there has to be some degree of viewer satisfaction, right? So you got to put something like that in the story to make it seem like it's been worth the while to have watched it. Correct. If we're going 100% based off of what actually happened, which was, according to Fiona Harvey, a dozen or so text messages or what have you, then you're going to have one boring ass show.
Now, I can't say this as a huge matter of fact, but from what I've encountered in my experience of doing comedy for almost 3 years, I found that in most cases, not all, but most cases, the ending is the part that is made up. Because usually things don't end in a way that's like the all-telling moment, or that wraps everything up in a nice little bow. It's usually like the one where they flourish a little bit. I mean, there's probably tons of comedians who are like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, that's usually where the joke starts, is the ending, and they work backwards. I'm just talking about like the open mics that I've experienced. It's like a lot of the times especially me, we'll just disclose me. Like whenever I try to tell a story, the ending sucks. Like I have this huge event that happened to me that's really funny, but the ending is like, then I went home. Ha 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 ha. So funny.
The woman that plays Martha, Jessica Gunning, she was frightening. She was frighteningly good.
Yeah.
And what I'm worried about is that she's going to be typecast now because she had an extensive resume. I don't think of like a lot of starring roles, but definitely a lot of guest roles. And she was already being lauded as a fantastic actor. But
yeah,
I worry now that because of Baby Reindeer, this is going to be like,
gonna be the crazy woman. Yeah,
correct. This is going to be not only the thing she's going to be most remembered for, but people are just going to look at her as just being a complete psychopath. And she seems like the complete opposite. I mean, that tells you that's a great actor.
Seems really sweet.
Right. I mean,
she does a fantastic job too. I think that's why people were so inspired to look for the real Martha, because the way that she plays that part, it's just so evil that people are like, this person needs to be taught a lesson. Like I need to say my opinion to this real person.
But also, like, what are you gonna say? Like, I just don't understand. I really don't understand that mentality of like finding the person and what is justice to you. Justice to you is the dopamine and the serotonin that is running through your veins, that like, I found that person, now I can go yell at them. I mean, that's all I can kind of see it as. Realistically, like, I get it, but also like, I don't get it.
right. Do you think the producers knew of Fiona Harvey and had something to reference while they were working on the show before her identity was revealed? Because when you hear Fiona speaking, when she's talking to Piers Morgan, her voice and Jessica Gunning's voice, I mean, it's identical. And Jessica Gunning, like, unless that's her real speaking voice, because I admittedly don't know, I'm only familiar with her from Baby Reindeer, but there's no way that they just happen to have identical sounding voices. She has to be doing an impression of her because, Nate, I mean, you watched the show and then you heard the audio from Piers Morgan just now. That's like a 1-to-1 right there.
I forget, like, is she Scottish?
She is Scottish.
Is that? Yeah. I mean, the show says that she's Scottish, so maybe she's just doing a Scottish accent.
Yeah.
And it's just like, maybe that's all she needed. It was like, it's a woman, Scottish accent. And like, like that's all she needed. And it's enough for us Americans to be like, oh, they sound just like him. I don't know what accent that was, but
Canadian.
I mean, you could be right there. Canadian.
Could be.